This is ridiculous. You need to be here.
Matt, you want me to film that for you? What do I got to press?
It's already on.
Okay.
Jeez.
Really? What did I get myself into here?
We're gonna light the candles because Dad always had candles on the table.
What did he say? What are we?
What are we, barbarians?
Barbarians.
Candles.
Let's light the candles.
So this is ceremony.
We are not barbarians.
There we go. We'd love it if Caitlin and Aiden could come up.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Not a problem. No, it's okay. I got
A
it.
poem for Papa. He was nice. A good person. He was my grandpa. He was my pen pal. I am proud of my papa. He likes making paper swans. He likes making paper airplanes. He liked to hear me play the piano. He made me happy. I am proud of my papa. I love my papa, and he loves me.
Valerie and Jamie.
Hi everyone, my name is Jamie. I'm one of Papa's granddaughters. I wrote something for him just to go over some memories and stuff that we had with him. There are many things that I could say about Papa. He was a gifted intellectual, an enthusiastic engineer, a devoted father, and a loving grandfather. If there is one thing that I could say about him though, it would be his passion for learning, and he made sure to pass off this knowledge as often as he could. He taught special needs children in the school district that I went to in New Hampshire. And as his granddaughter, I was swept along in the wake of his passion. As a 9-year-old girl, I remember him instructing me in the ways of astrophysics, explaining Einstein's theory of relativity as if it were easy math, and setting up problems for me to solve using these equations. Of course, I didn't understand everything, but his enthusiasm at teaching me was what made it fun. It was from those learning sessions that my love of science was born, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But it wasn't always about science. On quiet evenings after dinner, we would go into the den and he would continue his lessons, sharpening my mind with strategic game of chess. We would play for hours with him pointing out moves and reminding me to always think one step ahead of the move I was making. I loved the challenge chess presented to me, even though I only beat him once, and I'm pretty sure that he let me win that one time. Papa loved hands-on activities and would always be learning something new. He loved to make paper airplanes and spend hours with me and Mallard trying to make one that flew just right. This included making sure the plane was leveled out, had rudders in all the right places, and sometimes even adding a counterweight on the tail end of the front if it was too heavy. I remember coming home one day and seeing that he had even constructed a paper airplane launcher, and boy did those airplanes fly perfectly. When we were living with Papa and Nan in New Hampshire, Papa always made sure to keep us busy. Busy children meant happy children. There were endless days in which Papa would drive his tractor, complete with the wagon hitched to the back, and he would take both of us down the hill to his vegetable garden, making sure that we knew what all the plants were and how to care for each. Across the street, there was a pond and an entrance to the river. Both were beautiful places. In the pond, we would search for huge tadpoles that lived in the muck and take them home and watch them morph into full-grown frogs. At the river, Papa had crayfish traps set up, and we'd always go down to see if he caught everything. I remember one time when we were checking on them, I accidentally slipped into the river. Being the young age of 10, I panicked thinking that I would be swept down the river, but in reality it was only a couple feet deep, and there were rocks blocking it, so I couldn't physically get past that. And Papa, thinking fast on the spot, grabbed a crayfish trap and threw it to me, telling me to grab onto it. And I did, and he reeled me in. Now we can laugh about this now, but when I got back out, he told me, "Don't tell Mom." And I never did until a couple days ago when I told you the story. Many of you will remember Papa's favorite vehicle, the golf cart he had in Wilmot. Mallory and I spent a huge amount of time on this as well. We would go all up and down the dirt roads across the street from the house, and he would let us take turns driving it. It was from this that I became a good driver, for that golf cart had a lot of pep to it. Driving up those roads, a learning experience was never missed. Papa would point out all the different flowers that lined on the hills and the sides of the road and tell us what each of them were. Mallory and I, living with Papa for many years, did a lot of different things with him. Sitting down to dinner, God forbid you forgot to light the candles. As if it was clockwork, Papa would make a statement that was sort of his catchphrase, which you all know, "What are we barbarians?" One of the most memorable experiences for me was New Year's of 2000, Y2K as most refer to it. We received a little backpack with a stuffed animal type thing that had a Y2K shirt in it, and we stayed up with Papa to watch the ball drop that night. Staying up that late when I was 10 was a big deal for me, and being able to spend it with Papa was a great moment to share. More recently, it was Papa that inspired my final speech in my public speaking class. Excuse me. My topic was, why is there a need to return to the space program? And he was my personal source for it. We spoke about a lot of things on this topic. And his experience with the lunar module made my speech credible. He gave me a lot of tips and pointers on what to say. And it was because of that that I had the best speech of the class. Papa was a great person, and one that everyone was proud of. He accomplished a lot of things in life, including raising a wonderful family and being an engineer in a field that he interested in. We loved him, and we'll miss him very much, but we are comforted in knowing that he lived life to the fullest and enjoyed every second of it. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My pop-up made this poem for me. It's titled Mallory Louise. Mallory Louise is granddad's little tease. She flirts and then ignores his pleas. With long brown hair and rosy cheeks, she refuses a hug and a squeeze. Grandparents out there with grandchildren so fair will surely understand my plight. Mallory Louise, granddad's little tease. How do I keep her from flight?
Life is a striding master. Life is a striding master. Not once to be run with him. A rich not wanted by the right. For sure folly will take his face. Happiness comes sparsely in water. On all liberty counts the sun. And swallows the bitter gall. More than sweet or foul. Hard work is the lot of most of us, and we struggle to make it do. For faith is a fickle mistress, and happiness is not our due. True peace is a silent man, and exists only in gloom and grit. So put up with life's adversities, be satisfied with little gifts. It is sacred just to be here, to see each day begin and end. To care for wife and children, to love and live. Thank you.
All right, and Papa wrote one for me as well. It's called Little Jamie Kissed Me. I know all about Jenny, but let me tell you about Jamie, granddaughter so close to my heart that it hurts. And tonight at dinner, 2-year-old Jamie gave her granddad a loving kiss. Mother and Dad were prompting, of that there is no doubt, although in my mind there really was no need. I can now say proudly, for everyone to heed, that the world is a brighter place for me. For on a fancier whim, whatever it was within, little Jamie kissed me.
I have a book here from Ed Lowe from Newsday. He wrote a story about an experience we had with my father and my mother. I believe it was, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Pat and Ray Pfisterer bought a 4-bedroom house in Bethpage in 1953. They lived in the house for 13 years, during which time they added 6 children to Long Island's then burgeoning population. Raymond Pfisterer worked as an engineer with what is now called Grumman Aerospace. When their first child, Mark, reached his first birthday, Ray Pfisterer stood the boy up in the hallway against the inside of the linen closet door and carefully penciled a short line showing Mark's height. He labeled it as such and included Mark's weight and the date. To the surprise of nobody who knew Raymond Pfisterer, a methodical sort of man who always kept regular records and who was the acknowledged chronicler of his own family's history, Mark began a tradition birthday ritual at the Bethpage house. Once every year, each child stood in the hallway to have his or her vertical development recorded on the linen closet door. By the time the Pfisterers moved to a much-needed larger home in Setauket, all the 6 children were represented, including the baby, who was 2.5 in 1967 when the family moved out. Raymond Pfisterer, who thought of taking the linen closet door with him to Setauket, but in the confusion and hustle of buying and selling and moving from one house to another, he dismissed it as a frivolous idea. He was in Setauket house 3 days, his wife said recently, when he began to regret the decision deeply. He would walk around the house saying, "I could kick myself for leaving that thing behind," Mrs. Pfisterer said. He said things like, "I've lost a part of my children's lives." It really bothered him, Mrs. Pfisterer continued. He was a very orderly man, and his family means a great deal to him. It was very important. So about 6 weeks after we moved, he decided to go back and get the door from the people who bought the house. But the people were in the middle of a cesspool overflow and some flooding in the basement, and my husband figured he'd better just beat a hasty retreat. That was the end of it, except that he talked about it at least on every one of the kids' birthdays. Whenever my husband got into a melancholy mood, he would talk about the other linen closet door. We had a similar door here upstairs in the linen closet, and we continued the tradition. What's missing, of course, is the first 13 years. Last month, with their parents' 30th wedding anniversary approaching, daughter Christine Pfisterer proposed retrieving the old door as a surprise gift. Everyone agreed, but nobody remembered the name of the buyer of the house. They contacted Florence Englander, a neighbor who lived 2 doors away in Bethpage. and she got them in touch with Murray and Rosario Corelli, the owners for the last 15 years of the Pfisterer's former home. 3 of the now grown children, Pfisterer children, approached the Corellis and revealed their plan for the anniversary gift. The Corellis considered it a wonderful idea and asked only that the Pfisterers replace the closet door with the new closet door. The Pfisterers learned happily that the Corellis had fastened a full-length mirror to the inside of the door so that the markings had never seen a coat of paint. Now, Mrs. Pfisterer recalls, 3 of them go down to the house in my daughter's broken down 71 Volkswagen and measure the door. It's 95 degrees out and the Volkswagen heater is stuck in the on position. They go to Fair Play Lumberyard, 3 crazy women, Kerry, who's 20, and who just got back from 4 years in Okinawa, where her husband's in the Air Force, Chris, who's 26. That is not true. Okay. And lives at home, and Emma and Eileen, 23, who also lives here. They get a door 18 inches across. The door was $18, and the price of cutting was another $18. They were short of cash, so my daughter told the whole story to the guy in the lumberyard, and he decided to not charge them for cutting the door. They couldn't put the new door up for some reason, so they brought the people a drill bit. I'm having trouble seeing now, so. No, it's okay. No, I just can't see.
That means you're
They
in.
couldn't put the new door up for some reason, so they brought the people a drill bit and a bottle of wine, and the Corelli said they would put it up themselves. Now the kids throw us a party on a Sunday. All 6 kids, 3 spouses, and the grandchildren. And they gave us a photo album with the quest for our roots printed on the cover. And then they bring out the door. I'm telling you, it was the biggest shock of our lives. Raymond, who was not given to shows of emotion, simply sat down and cried. I cried too. But to see him crying, well, it was incredible.
Hello, everybody. Number 5, checking in. Everybody loves Raymond. Daddy, Papa, Uncle Ray. What are we, barbarians? We already lit the candles. My dad, okay, our dad. I share dad with 5 other siblings. Still surreal standing here telling you all about him because he's no longer here. Yet I want to tell everyone how amazing he was. He was so much. He was warm, cozy comfort when I was scared of the dark. He would feed me whiskey tits when I had bad colds. No, you don't know what a whiskey tit is? It's you put sugar in a corner of a cloth, and then you dip the cloth in whiskey. Never heard of that? Either that, or he would just put a lot of honey and whiskey and sugar together and say, "Down it goes." And I couldn't sip it; I had to chug it. But anyway, he was pancakes with homemade maple syrup on Sunday mornings. I mean, he would 50 or 60 of them. Yeah.
He was the record, the number of pancakes in
80. Yeah.
80 was like the big.
Yeah.
6 kids.
He was pizza pies on the weekends, and that's the reason why we have the pizza on the table. It's my father's special recipe, so if everybody wants to take a bite and taste what we've had all our life, that would be great. Yay!
Eat the pizza.
He was coal fires in the winter when wood was plentiful. He was farmer of an amazing garden which would reap rich harvests that would sustain 8 of us through the winter. He was installer of a phone lock. Remember those? Because when we were all so damnably sociable, the bills would be crazy. He could be tough when he wanted to be. He was shooting rabbits with BB guns in the backyard when they would dare go near his garden.
Amen.
I know you wouldn't think, right?
Amen to that.
He was trying to convince me that time travel was possible, that anything was possible. He was always teaching Einstein's theory of relativity with Mallory and Jamie when they were babies. He was always a pioneer in his ways of thinking. He was bushels of apples and peaches and tomatoes. He was Coleman stoves, mason jars, and food mills. He was fierce thunderstorms and finding safe havens. He was trumpet blaring in the living room, oblivious to his surroundings, playing the flight of the bumblebee. He was teasing and loving to my mom when she had a big-ass bumblebee on her butt, and he rolled up a newspaper while we were all watching it, was gonna swat her butt. Mom was screaming, "Raymond, Raymond!" Of course, Mom wearing tons of Aquanet. Didn't help matters. Hairspray. I didn't kind of, these are like notes everywhere. He was a wannabe pilot, and he had every book on flight, and he fashioned paper airplanes for everybody. He actually had a course when he was teaching elementary schools that, you know, it was an after-school course where kids would show up and he would, you know, make these, show them how to do the airplanes, and it all had to do with the flaps and controlling the lifts and the drag and whatever. But phrases we'll never hear again from Dad. What are we, barbarians? Sorry, it's like 10 times now. A working girl is a happy girl.
I love that one. Mother especially.
What did your mother say? Cheap female stoop labor.
Oh, yeah.
Please, girls, don't wear my turtlenecks, because you leave funny bumps in them. And Einstein's theory of relativity. There's a 5 here somewhere. He was survival packs. He was adventure. He was the dumb ass who would face hurricanes head on and send the family to higher ground. I apologize. Finally, my father, my dad, always sang. Bawdy tunes most of the time, things I would be too embarrassed to sing. But there is one that I hope a lot of you remember, and it's about innocent little sheep. So here we go. I do this without shaking. To the tables down at Maury's, to the place where Louis dwells, to the dear old temple bar we love so well. Sing the whiffin' posts assemble with their glasses raised on high, and the magic of their singing cast its spell. Yes, the magic of their singing of the songs we love so well. Shall I wasting and the morning and the rest? We will celebrate, oh Louis, while life and voice shall last. Then we'll pass and be forgotten with the rest. like sheep who have gone astray. Ba, ba, ba. Gentlemen songsters off on a spree, doomed from here to eternity. Lord, have mercy on such as we. Ba, ba, ba.
Anybody else going to talk? Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, can everybody hear me? How you doing? I'm number 6, so that means this is probably going to be over pretty shortly. So I'll probably go as fast as I can. First of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out today. If I haven't done so already individually, let me do it en masse. This is a wonderful turnout, and it's so comforting to me and my family to see the outpouring of love today. So on behalf of all of us, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. Dad has 6 kids. 5 of us live in New York and 1 of us live in Colorado. And Dad was very proud of his swinging, independent Florida lifestyle. So communication, if we wanted to communicate with Dad, we'd all go down for our yearly visit, but communication with Dad really meant talking on the cell phone. So all of us know this very well. When you called Dad, there were certain situations that might be taking place. The first one might be that interference from his hearing aids were causing a Star Wars-like sound on one end of the cell phone. So you'd call him up, and it would sort of sound like Darth Vader, "Luke, this is your father." Piercing noises in the background, so after about 2 or 3 minutes, Dad would get you off the phone and say, "Listen, it's not happening today." So that in my book is a failed communication. The second cell phone occurrence that might happen would be you'd catch him with his friends and Sylvia, his beloved life partner, down at their favorite hangout, Adriano's. As we've all eaten at Adriano's, and we're all here to talk about it today, but there was some recovery time involved after the meals at Adriano's. But we would call Dad on the phone and catch him in the middle of his meal when he was surrounded by his many friends and Syl. So you could have about a 30-second, 60-second conversation, and I learned to just say, "Okay, Dad, I understand you're busy, and you can go." But sometimes, and there was a very, very rare occasion, that you could catch Dad. The best time to catch him was usually after a nap, in the morning, or after he took his walk. And I'm thinking back to one of the final conversations that I had with him, and this was probably about a month before he passed, and I did catch him. He was very relaxed. We were talking on the phone, and during this conversation, we spoke of his childhood. And for those of you who don't know, my grandfather, Joseph Pfisterer, was a salesman and a repairman for the Hoover Vacuum Cleaner Company during the worst days of the Depression. He always had a job. He always brought home a paycheck. But unfortunately for the family, this caused them to be very transient. And Aunt Joan, if I'm getting any of this wrong, please correct me. Dad told me during this conversation that he had moved 7 times by the time he was in 4th grade. And my grandmother Pfisterer was not happy with that level of education. So Grandma Pfisterer arbitrarily on her own decided that Dad was going to repeat 4th grade. And Dad told me he was really, really upset about it. But my Grandma Pfisterer was the boss. He repeated 4th grade. So what is the significance of this? The significance is that that one decision by my grandmother Pfisterer delayed my father's draft eligibility for World War II. In September of my father's senior year, when he received his draft notice, my grandfather Pfisterer went down to the draft board and said, "Can you please let my son graduate from high school before you take him into the service?" And fortunately, the draft board was very lenient, and they said, "Sure, we'll give him a deferment until he finishes his degree, his high school education." But my father laughed because he said, then they waited an extra 6 months before they drafted him. What's the significance of this? My father told me that he believed, had he not repeated 4th grade, and had he been drafted when he was 18, he would have been trained and eligible and ready for D-Day. He might have been storming the beach at Normandy. We all saw Saving Private Ryan. We knew what happened to a lot of people that stormed the beaches of Normandy. So while we were talking about this, we both kind of reflected a second, and we said, you know, Grandma Pfisterer didn't know what she was doing, making you repeat 4th grade, but she set about a fortunate series of events that had positive consequences. I wouldn't be here, many of my brothers and sisters might not be here for this serendipitous act of fortunate events that was set in event. So in concluding with that, I just want to thank the universe and my grandmother Pfisterer for setting about that fortunate series of events that's allowing me to be standing here and speaking with you today. I would like to thank my grandmother Pfisterer and the universe for setting about the series of fortunate events that allowed me to be the youngest son of Raymond J. Pfisterer, to have such a wonderful siblings, brothers and sisters. And I would like to recount a story that my dad's beloved life partner, Sylvia Hewson, told me about one of Dad's final hospitalizations. He was taking a nap in his hospital bed. She was sitting with him, and she saw him wake with a start. She saw tears come into his eyes, and she said, "Raymond, what's wrong?" And my father paused, and he looked at her, and he said, "I just had the most wonderful dream." He said, "Words cannot describe this dream to you right now." And his eyes filled with tears. And Sylvia said, "What did you see, Raymond?" He said, "I saw such a beautiful place with colors swirling around me and things so beautiful, and I did not want to come back." So he didn't want to come back, and he was so moved that it made him upset when he woke up. So I hope that Dad has reached that beautiful place, and I hope that when he has gotten to that beautiful place, that he is with all the people he loves so well during his life, including many of our loved ones that have gone before him. And in closing, I would just like to recite my father's special holiday prayer. He wasn't anybody that knows my father knows that he hated religious dogma. He believed very deeply in a superior being, a God, but he believed it was very personal, the relationship that you could have with him. So this dinner prayer is based on his beliefs. So at a holiday meal, we would sit around the table, we'd bow our heads, we'd hold hands, and we'd listen to my father say, "Dear Lord, thank you for this life, this bounty, this consciousness, these gentle, loving people. Please keep us happy, keep us healthy, and keep us together. Amen." Thank you all so much.
Dougie, did you want to say something?
Kelly?
Dougie wanted to say something. He's going to come up.
They can just work for it.
Bye, Daddy.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Doug Rising. I'm Ray's nephew from Joan, sister. And I thought of a few words I might say to you. First of all, I think it's useful to remember that we're actually not here for Ray. We're here for ourselves. We're here because what we call the ritual of a funeral or a service or remembrance gatherings. We're here because these kind of rituals is what allows us to try to find meanings in life. And whether you're religious or not, I think all of us try to find some kind of meaning. And this is one way we do that. We do these rituals. So this is my effort to keep thoughts I had about what Ray meant to me. In my life, Ray was to a good extent a role model. My father never really played much of a role in my life from the beginning. I never learned to expect anything from him. And that was okay, that's what it was. But on the other hand, Ray played a significant role, although I suppose only occasionally. He always influenced my life. We shared a lot of things together in terms of the way that we look at life. For instance, he taught me about intellectual development and developing a career that was really important and the value of family, value in your life. He was a teacher by nature, and I think I become a teacher by nature. In my professional life, I chose to become a supervisor, and I have about 15 workers under me for the last 10 years or so. But to a large extent in my job, as a supervisor, I can teach or I can do work, and I choose to be a teacher because I think, to some extent, Ray influenced that in me also. And the values that he put forward, the way he lived the family life is something that I always ascribed to do. So in many ways, I admired him in his career development. I sent him a get-well card a couple of months ago when I first learned about his illness, and he sent back a response to me, which was really nice. I was also for about 20 years an activist and union delegate, and Ray was aware of that. He said that his dad would have been proud of me. His dad, Ray Pfisterer, was a union delegate. And in the course of my career, in the last 40 years in hospital social work, I've been an activist and union delegate there, and it's a very strong thread in my life. And that was, to a large extent, because of Joe Sr. and Ray's influence also. So, what else? I don't know, I think that's basically what I wanted to say. When I had basically no role model, Ray was always there to listen and communicate. We shared a lot of intellectual development. Poetry also, I write poetry by nature. And a way of looking at the world that was not something that I grew up with, by any means, something that developed. And Ray was part of the reason for that, so I thank him and I celebrate his life.
if there's anybody else that would like to share a story or something about that. My husband.
In September of 1983, I was reading Newsday, and I read the very same story that Christine read to you. And at the time, Brian, my son, was 4 or 5 months old. And I thought, hey, that's a great idea. So I started the same thing. I used the door frame in my basement door. And I had the house fairly heavily decorated, redone, but I left that one strip unpainted. So I still had that work. And then my late wife passed away 5 years ago. That's when I met Megan. And we were in Florida. And she said, oh, there's a story about me and my family in Newsday in Low Road. And I said, which one? So she showed it to me. And I said, no shit. So my kids' growth is recorded the same as theirs.
Is the bar open?
You good? Okay.
Can everybody hear me? My name is, in Pennsylvania, it's Nan Beery, but I am Bill and Trees Beery's oldest daughter. And if I can speak for my brother Paul, I know how much every summer, all the time, we love going to Aunt Pat, Uncle Ray's house. And I know a lot of my fellow cousins probably feel the same way. And I always thought I was a fat and ugly kid, and no one liked me, and every time we would go to Aunt Pat and Uncle Ray's, he would say, Nancy, you're so pretty. And I would leave there feeling valued. And I can't tell you, I mean, I'm going to be 53, and it still has an impact on me. And yeah, thank Aunt Pat for my nails. Anyone who remembers Aunt Pat? I used to love to look at her nails, and thank God I was born with them. So I just want to thank you as my cousins. You was very welcome.
That's it. I got you anyway.
That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Oh, we still have dessert.
Dessert and coffee, everybody.
And the bar is still open.
Yeehaw. That's what I was waiting for.
Good job. Ken Andrews.